Anja here, and I'm back with another video for Ophelia Talks. And today we are making the Jam Jar Happiness Blanket. And this is week 6. You see, we are making a single bed-size blanket with the Jam Jar Happiness yarn pack. This is the first video of our border journey. We are today going to be making the back border. So that means we are making the slip stitch round and the back border. There will be a second video this week for the front border. I do hope you will enjoy the process and enjoy crocheting. And without further ado, let's get started. So this week, to get started on the border, you will need 8 stitch markers and you will need your leftover koala color and of course the hook that you have been using for your blanket. Now, it's border time. So when you have finished your row 151, it is time to start doing the preparations for the border. So we have here koala, and I'm just going to get started on a short side about in the middle, but I am going to start about here so I can show you how to do the short side where you have your actual stitches. I can show you how to do the corner, but also how to do the side. So insert your hook in between 2 stitches like so. Bring up your koala color and pull it through like so. Then you insert in between the next 2 stitches, you bring up your koala color and you pull it through the loop on your hook. And this is how you are going to continue all along your side here, where you have those bodies of the stitches that you can work in between. Now make sure your yarn is free flowing and that you don't do these stitches too tightly so it cinches it together. Make sure your blanket is still laying nice and flat like this. Take your time to make sure that this row of slip stitches is nice and straight. It will be easier to do this on this side and your other short side, but the side here where you don't have those stitches to work with, that will be more problematic, but we'll get there. So now let's have a look. Okay, so one more stitch and I am at the corner. Then this is my last stitch here. So the slip stitch that I'm going to be doing here is going to count as my corner slip stitch. So I'm going to go into the double crochet sort of at the base of it, almost picking up 2 strands. Yeah, I have 2 strands if at all possible. Then you pull through the yarn and make your slip stitch. And so this one is going to be my corner. So I'm going to get my stitch marker and I'm going to place it underneath that stitch there, so that when I get back here, when I'm doing the actual border, I know which I'm going to treat as my corner. And then here I'm going to do the same thing because you will lose sight of it if you don't. Well, I do anyway. So put the stitch marker around this back bump there. So you now have 2 stitch markers which mark the same slip stitch on either side of your blanket, which you will need later on when we're doing the borders. So make sure you do this for every corner. So the slip stitch that you do, that you think you are going to place your corners in, that is located the best in the corner, mark those. Then here we are going to have to take a look at where we are going to be placing our slip stitches. Now you know we have done a double crochet at the start and at the end of each row, and that is why we did this, because we are going to be using those double crochets for placing our slip stitches in. And you will recognize the locations after a little while. And yeah, see, I try not to put 4 stitches along the length of 2 double crochets. That's just too much. So this here, the 2 and then 1, that's perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the next one here. Can I go, yeah, in between the middle there, into the middle of that double crochet there. Then, yeah, I am going to go over to the next stitch already. I'm in the beginning of the next stitch, so I might just do another one at the end of it. And yeah, it's not easy to get into it. It'll take some time, but yeah, look, this is nice and straight. If you take your time and you make sure that this row in particular is done nice and neatly, not too many stitches, not too few stitches, nice and straight. And this is where it is really worth trying this out on your sampler. If you can have a go at doing the border on your sampler, it will help enormously for the finishing touch, the finishing look of your big blanket. Okay, this is where the secret lies of having like a professional finish to your blanket. If you manage to get this really nice and straight, it will help enormously in the look and finish of your blanket. So yes, I said, you know, do about 3. Yeah, look, there's about 3 stitches there. So that's fine. You know, try to do 3 stitches for every 2 heights of double crochets. Sort of one in the middle, one sort of at where these 2 meet, and then one at the end. Also make sure that your ends are hanging out. So your ends don't get caught into the slip stitch round. Let me have a look. Yeah, and they're all this side of the slip stitch round. Okay, so if my end was hanging out here, then I would have to pull it into the slip stitch. So the ends will end up being hidden by the border. Okay, so take your time to do this and it will pay off. So of course I have already started doing this. Look here, I have my corners done already here. So when you get to the other short side, you will be able to go round the bodies of the stitches again. And then on this side here, you will be negotiating the lengths of the stitches again with, of course, all your ends hanging out. About the ends, do not worry. You don't need to knot them. You don't need to cut them short. Just keep them as they are and they will all disappear into the border. They might be a nuisance right now because they're in the way when you're doing your slip stitch, but soon they will all disappear. So I will see you when you have done your whole round of slip stitches all around your blanket and you have done the marking with your stitch markers of the 4 corners. So I have just one more slip stitch to do here. So I'm going to pull up my yarn, cut off my end here, and I'm going to pull out my loop like so. Then using my hook, I'm going to go under that first slip stitch that we did, bring under that yarn, pull it through there. And then here, go to the previous slip stitch that you did and bring through the yarn through there. There we go. So now we have finished this round of slip stitches and you can't even tell where we started. Now, if you notice that where you finished your slip stitch row, you don't have a back bump in that location. You're just going to put your hook through there, pull through the yarn,
like so. And of course this is not going to stay. So now you have these two ends together, and I'm just going to tie a knot in them. This will all disappear into the border, so nobody is going to see that, but it will save you a headache in that location there, where you wouldn't have a back bump to go under otherwise. There we go. So now I have my round of slip stitches finished. So we are going to start working on the back border. We are going to use pistachio and pumpkin, and we are going to get started by working on the back of our blanket. So this is where you see those single strands. And this is where we are going to start working, because it's easier to pick them up now than what it would be if we had picked these ones up first. So let's get going. So we're going to get started by using pumpkin, and we are doing a slip knot. Insert your hook, and we are ready to get started with a standing half double crochet. So you can start wherever you want on your blanket. I always suggest you start on this side in the middle somewhere, but I'm going to get started here so I can show you how to do the corner in a moment. So you yarn over, you go under the back bump of your slip stitch, and you pick it up, pull through the yarn, and you do a half double crochet. So yarn over, pick up that one strand, pull up a loop, yarn over, and pull through the 3 loops on your hook. And it might be a little bit more difficult to get under these strands, and it will take some time, but twisting your hook to get under it like this might in fact help. Or even just doing this to sort of bring it to the top helps as well. There we go. So now I'm at the stitch with the stitch marker. Take it out. And into that stitch you are going to be doing a corner. And corners are made up of 2 half double crochets, 1 chain, and 2 half double crochets. So you pick up the strand for doing your corner, so 2 half double crochets, 1 chain, and 2 half double crochets into that same slip stitch. There we go. See, and I've made a corner. And now you just continue picking up those strands and placing your half double crochet in there. Now you might notice that they do pull up quite easily when you're working. Look, it's sort of like a real big loop there, and here as well. But once, of course, we've used the fronts of these slip stitches, it will all come together and close up. So, yeah, I suggest you find something to watch or listen to, and you get going on your first round of half double crochets. I will see you when you are here. So I've just done my last half double crochet of my round. I am now here. This is that first standing half double crochet that we did, which tends to close up for me, so I skip this one, go over to the next V, and I do a slip stitch in there. This has now closed my round, and now we are going to do a chain 2, and we're going to do a second round of half double crochets all the way around in pumpkin. So there we go, first stitch done. That's always the more difficult one. So place a half double crochet in each stitch, and when you get to the corner you will do the corners as we have been used to. Now, if you find that your corners are not sharp enough, you can add a chain. If you find that they are too sharp, that they're sticking out, you can reduce the amount of stitches that you do there, but make sure you remember what you've done and do the same thing in every corner and in every round. So I'm doing 2 half double crochets, 1 chain and 2 half double crochets, and for me that just works. And then of course you continue your round. I like using half double crochets because they reduce the risk of our border becoming wavy. I will see you at the end of the round, right about here. So I have made it around my blanket all the way. Skipping the chain 2, I go under the next V there and I do a slip stitch. There we go. And that closes off the round. Now I'm going to cut off this yarn, pull it through. So now we're going to do a round in pistachio. So make your slip knot, insert your hook, and we are ready to get started. Now we're going to do a round of single crochets. So that means you can just go under any V and you start with doing your single crochets. Now, of course, you just place 1 single crochet on top of each stitch of the row below. And then when you get to the corner, you look for that last stitch. There we go. And then when you get to the corner, into the corner chain space, you're going to do 2 single crochets, 1 chain, and then another 2 single crochets into that same chain space. There we go. Now we need this single crochet round for a reason, and of course all will be revealed on the front border. Now you know there's some decorations on the blanket and on the border. If you do not want to do those, you can simply skip them, okay? But of course I'm going to show you how to do them. So I will see you at the end of your single crochet round. So this is where I'm at the moment. So I've just made it to the end of the round here and I will be closing up the round. So do your slip stitch over that standing stitch. So go to the next V, do your slip stitch, there we go. And then we do a chain 2 and we are going to start doing another round of half double crochets because we do need this border to be a little bit wider, to be in sort of proportion, of course, with our blanket. Of course, for my sampler here, the border is going to be a bit too wide, but that doesn't matter because it's only a sampler. For the corners, I've done 2 half double crochets, 1 chain and 2 half double crochets into the chain space in the corner, and then I am just going to continue placing half double crochets all around my blanket, and I will see you at the end of the round. So I've just done my last stitch going under the V there to close my round, and that is it for this part of the border. So in this video I showed you how to do the slip stitch and the rounds of the back border. So this will become the back of our blanket, and this glorious side will become the front of our blanket, of course, after we have adhered the front border. But that is for next video, so I will see you then.
Follow the link in the description box, which will take you to the blog post with the written instructions for constructing this border. Starting, of course, with the slip stitch round and the back border. There will also be a table for the colours, so make sure you also check the key. There will be a second video this week on Friday for the front border, so watch out for that one. Take your time to do this part, especially the slip stitch round, because this will be instrumental in making sure that your blanket is finished to high standards. Doing the rounds for the back border will take some time, but it will be so worth it. I do hope you will enjoy the process and enjoy crocheting. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in this week's second video in a couple of days. Bye!